Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you are new. It is Sunday. We've just got back from Love Supreme Festival. It was actually really good fun, but it was so wet today that we just headed off early, which is such a shame because I really wanted to see Joss Stone, but I did see her on tour when I was like 17 or 18, so I kind of have done it, but it was so wet. I can't explain to you how wet it was. Yesterday was lovely. We saw Olivia Dean, and now I think I've got like a new obsession. Anyway, that is not the point of this video, but it does explain my new outfit because I picked it up at the festival itself. It's from Lucy and Yak, which I've actually never shopped from before. And then I just got a little bow in my hair because I thought it was cute. But what I'm here today is to embark on what is probably going to be scattered over the next couple of months, and that is the declutter. So for those of you who haven't been around before or haven't seen it in videos as of late, Alex and I are buying a house. And I mean, we live in a one-bed flat and we're buying like a three-bed house, so we don't really have to declutter. Like, everything can fit. That's not necessarily the issue. It's just I have a lot of stuff. We've lived here for coming up to 3 years. We've got very comfortable here, and it means we've just like collated possessions, and some of those possessions we just really do not need. And I was going to do it all in 1 week, and then I thought I'd probably end up getting bored during that week of just decluttering constantly. So I thought actually I would just like space it out and just do a little bit every time I'm kind of in the mood to do a bit. So we're starting. I mean, I'm gonna declutter all sorts. Today is not the day to do the wardrobe. I just don't think I'm like mentally prepared. I do have a task that I've been putting off for a very long time, and that is eyeshadow palettes. So I've been on a journey. I've loved eyeshadow. I've kind of gone off eyeshadow. I've loved it. I've gone off it. I've loved it. I've gone off it. I have so many eyeshadow palettes. I do not use them. I use like the same, probably like 5 palettes on repeat. And then I have like a very small handful that I pull from for like very specific things, usually colour. So like, I do not need this many, and I've always been so scared to get rid of them because I love them, and I'm like, what happens if I want to look back at them, yada yada yada. I just need to get rid of them. Some of them are so old, it's probably gross. So, should we have a look? Should we dig them out? I'm actually slightly terrified. I feel like I've gone in really hard. There are probably some easy bits I could declutter on my very first day of decluttering, but I thought I would start with a harder topic, and then the next couple of things will be easier. Is that how it works? This is a fan because it has been warm. So let me move this out the way. So these are Alex 5 drawers. You've probably seen them online. Literally everyone and their mother has them. There's a few at the bottom here because they're just too big. First things first will be getting these out. And then the rest of them live in here. Let me just scoot you closer. So most eyeshadow palettes are here. I've got a little stack next to me. There's literally all sorts in here, and I'm slightly stressed because there are some favourites, but there are a lot that are just like really old. Definitely past their use by date. And there are some I keep hold of for like really odd reasons, and they need to go. Let's get you set up properly to film a declutter. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. If you really love a declutter, give this video a thumbs up because there will be so many of them coming, all aspects of my life. There you go. I've got you guys all set up. Here's the little stack to the right, which I think I might start with first. So these are the large palettes that actually just don't fit in the drawers because they don't fit. I mean, actually probably this one could fit this way, but they don't fit like this way. So I've got 5 of very differing varieties. So let's just get going. The first one is a Ciate I Am Woman What's Your Superpower. I got this in an advent calendar. I do like it. I think these colours are beautiful, but it's just not the palette I reach for when I'm looking for these shades. So normally I would keep it because it's beautiful, but I just do not need it. So goodbye. This is my go-to bright palette. I absolutely adore this. I just don't think I could ever say goodbye to this. And I do think I will get back to it. This is the Be Perfect Carnival 3 palette. I cannot say goodbye to this, but I'm going to keep this open because I'm going to remind myself what's in here and try not double up, you know? I'm going to go for this one next because I kind of know what I'm going to do. This is the Jacqueline Hill palette by Morphe. I used to adore this palette. Like, I used to use this every single day. You can see it's like a very well-loved palette, and I've got like slight sentimentality for this, but I just don't use it. And actually I'm pretty sure the shadows in here are starting to go a bit grim because this palette is over 10 years old, I think. It's been at least, I bought it at university, so it's been a while. So yeah, I need to get rid of this because no one should put this on their face. And then I've also got the James Charles Morphe palette. I just feel like all the colours that I would use in here are in here, and I would definitely reach for this palette more. So I do love this, and I do think this is actually such a beautiful, beautiful palette. I just don't need both. And having both is slightly unnecessary. So I'm gonna keep the Be Perfect one and get rid of this, which is actually quite a moment to like get rid of both of these palettes because I used to absolutely adore these, but I don't need them. And then I've got the Mini Masquerade by Devious Place, which I know I do have some of these duplicating other places, but there is something about this formula that is like next level stunning, and I do enjoy the kind of neutrals and the brights, so this is gonna stay. I've kept 2, I've got rid of 3. Now let's actually go into the main drawer, which is what I'm slightly terrified about. Let's go for these 2. So these are the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. Got the Soft Glam, which as you can see has had some love, and then the Modern Renaissance palette. These 2 have gone so chalky. Like, they were pretty chalky palettes to begin with, to be honest, but the older they've got, the chalkier they've become, and they're actually just really not usable. So I've been keeping them more for sentimentality than anything else, but I just don't know why, because like, actually, I'm really struggling. Like, I'm really, also, ignore my nails. Anyway, I'm really struggling by, like, I can't use them. Okay, this is actually gonna be a lot harder than I thought it was. So let's go through at the front here, because there's a few little palettes like stacked in the front. We've got the Essential palette by Vive, which is my favorite palette, so like, where else is this gonna go? Of course I'm gonna keep it. I've then got my Beauty Bay pastel palette, which I love as like an inner corner pop, so actually I use this quite a lot. And I've got the Rare Beauty palette, which I've actually used quite a lot recently. It's actually got some really lovely colours down here, some warm neutrals, and then this kind of really beautiful glitter shade, so I do use this quite a lot. This is where I don't know what I'm gonna do. So actually this is the MAC 3x3 kind of customized palette, and I used to love these. I used to collect them. I had more than just these. These are like the ones that I kept and the ones that I like finished my life off with, but I just don't like them. I don't actually think these eyeshadows, either they've aged badly, which to be fair, they're quite old. So either they've aged badly, or actually the MAC eyeshadow formula wasn't as good as I remember it. But I find this palette, every time I use it, I'm always disappointed by it. So it's the same as these 2. Like, I've been keeping on to these because I'm so sentimentally attached to them, but I don't ever use them. And if I do, I regret it the minute I do. So I can't, okay, she has to go. I've then got this little tray in here, which kind of has the smaller palettes in it. So I've got a little Marc Jacobs palette, which as you can see actually has had quite a lot of love. I actually really enjoy this and I use this quite a lot, so that can stay. I've got a Rowan palette. It's beautiful, but like, do I need it? Absolutely no, so she can go. My NARS Isolde Duo, which to be honest, I love this, and this is such a throwback. I bought this off of the recommendation of Zoe Sugg, or Zoella as she used to go back in those days. This is the old NARS packaging, which means this is really old. And actually I find these shades don't really, well, they don't not suit me, but they're quite heavy. They're very like color rich shimmers, and it just means they're like, they almost look too much on my, I think it's my age. I think the older I get, the less I can get away with this. So I do love this, and this was a favorite of mine for like so many years. I just don't find myself reaching for it, so it can go. I've then got a couple of these Natasha Denona quads. I'm so torn because these are absolutely beautiful. I might hold these off when I'm doing the rest of the Natasha Denona eyeshadows because the formula of these is exceptional. So I'm just gonna like slot them down there. I've got 2 of these little elf quads, which who remembers when these had the world in an absolute chokehold, and like Instagram, you couldn't open the app without seeing them. I slowly decluttered them all, and these are the only 2 that I'm left with. I've got the green one, which is jalapeno, and the kind of warm berry toned one, which is Berry Bad. I actually just don't reach for these. If I want a green, I tend to go to the coloured eyeshadow palettes that are down there, and I also just don't reach for this. So I'm actually going to say goodbye to now all of the e.l.f. quads. Fare you well. And I've got a Too Faced Light My Fire palette, which is really freaking cute. I mean, this is actually like such adorable little branding, but I just don't find myself reaching for this. I just don't ever use it. And as much as the eyeshadows in here are beautiful, the formula's lovely, the packaging's obviously adorable, I just don't reach for it, so she can go. I've then got the Charlotte Tilbury Exaggerize Bigger Brighter Eye Filter, and this is in, I think it might be the shade Exaggerize, to be honest. It is beautiful. I mean, the packaging is like, Charlotte Tilbury get packaging so right, like it is stunning. I think I've used this about twice in my life, and I've owned this for like 2 years. I just find the shimmers are lovely, but they're just a bit, they kind of leave something to be desired. So I actually don't ever use this, and I'm gonna get rid of it. By the way, the things that I like getting rid of, the things that are like really out of date, I'm obviously gonna recycle what I can and throw away what I can't. But the items that are like actually okay, there's people in my life who tend to like take my leftovers. So that's where they will end up. I've got 2 of the Huda Beauty little 9 palettes. So I've got Warm Brown Obsessions, which I'm pretty sure they've discontinued. I loved this, as you can very much see. The issue I now have is that it's doing what the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes did. It's going a little bit chalky, and the formula's like, it's not got the like buttery texture that Huda Beauty normally has. So I just think this is like slowly gone off. So it needs to go. And then I've got the Topaz Obsession, which I think I actually tried to buy to be a replacement. And if you see them side by side, while they're both, you know, warm brown neutral palettes, they are very much not the same. I think it was as close as I thought I could get, but this has just never been this, so I don't reach for it. So these 2 can go. I've then got a little fantasy palette, which is a thing I got in PR. It's nice, I like it, I don't reach for it, I don't love it, so it can go. And I've then got the Gosh palette, which I used to love Gosh so much, and this is like a nice palette, like it's a nice colour range. A lot of the shades are really similar, but a nice colour range. The formula is really nice. The shimmers from Gosh are like beautiful, but I just don't ever reach for this or need it, so this can also go. And then I've got another Gosh palette here, which when I dip dyed my hair purple, I lived off this palette and I used it pretty much every day. So this shade here, I don't know if you can see it, it's like one of the first eyeshadows I ever hit pan on. I adored this to absolute pieces. I just don't use it anymore. This can go. I bought a lot of eyeshadow palettes in like the last year of university, and it just means that they're the ones that are probably gonna go. And then I've got the Tarte Look Toasted palette, which I picked up in, I think, a sale that Tarte had on their site. They often have sales on the Tarte website. I think this palette is beautiful. I'm so torn because there are some really unique shades in here. I think I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile. I'll stick it down here with these 2 Natasha Denona palettes. And then I have my Beauty Bay stack. Beauty Bay eyeshadows are stunning. And do I need all of these? Maybe not. So I've got the brights, which is, I know I probably don't need it, but I absolutely love it. So that can stay. The greens, I love green eyeshadow. I just do. I think it's stunning. I think it really suits me. I think the berries is the one that I'm not obsessed with, so this one can go. I've then got Fiery Matte, which like, stunning. Midnight, which has some really beautiful and very unique shades in it. It's where this Carnival palette falls down, is the blues. And then nudes. I mean, who doesn't need warm brown nudes? Do I need both of these? Yes. Yes, I do. So I'm just gonna get rid of the berry one because I really don't use any of these tones, but I will keep these because I do reach for these a lot. So here are my maybes. I'm just gonna move this little tray out. The camera is slightly overheating, so I'm gonna give the camera a break and then we will tackle this back section. I'm back. So let's go through this back section, which I think will be the hardest. So I'm going to start off with some easy choices. These are 2 Colourpop palettes, which actually a friend brought back for me from America. They are lovely. Like I'm very, very thankful that she brought them back, and I have used them quite a few times, but I don't think they're like unique or different or special enough that I feel the need to keep them over anything else. So I do think I'm gonna get rid of these. I'm actually such a terrible person. Honestly, I didn't ask for these in particular. I just said, like, if you're in a drugstore and you find a Colourpop palette, I really want to try the eyeshadow formula. And I did like it. They were fine, but I wasn't wowed by it. So yeah, these are gonna go. I've got a couple of Urban Decay palettes in here. Are these all of them? Potentially. So I've got the Urban Decay Naked palette, which is like a warm girl's absolute dream. And then the Metal Mania, which I actually got gifted by Urban Decay, which is, can we just talk about how nuts that is? And this is more like bright, shimmery, metallic shades. This is actually really unique. I don't think I've had enough time to really use it. I think it's more of a wintry palette, and I got it at the end of the winter that's just been and gone. So I am going to keep this and give it another winter and see how that kind of goes. And then I do love this. I'm going to leave this as a maybe and just kind of check myself on how many warm neutral palettes I keep, because I do reach for this and I do really enjoy it, but I also need to be careful about not having like 101 palettes that all have the same shades in them. So this is going to fall into a maybe category for now. This is a big moment. I loved this. This is the Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette. I loved this, as you can very much see. The black that's in here is more like a grey, and this is what really got me into more kind of heavier, kind of more grungy makeup, because it was actually quite an achievable, more everyday black shade. Obviously the neutrals are beautiful, but it's just very old. Like, I've had it for years. I think I bought this in like one of the first, I think this was the first eyeshadow palette I bought from like a non-Boots or Superdrug brand, and I loved it for so long. It's just very old, so she can go. I've then got this little Too Faced teddy bear palette, which is so freaking cute. Like, it is adorable. I just never ever reach for this, and I don't know why, so she can also go. And then this is the Endangered Cosmetics Red Panda Pressed Powder palette. It is really nice, but as you can see, it's another warm toned neutral palette. And while I kept this in the last couple of declutters, partly because it's a small makeup brand and we stand small makeup brands, but also because the shadows in here are really pretty. There are just palettes that I reach for more often and prefer. So this is gonna go. I did pay for this, but this is gonna go. I loved it. I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I supported it, but it's just, I just don't reach for this. The Life's a Drag palette from Luna Beauty. This is stunning, right? There are some beautiful shades in here, and if it wasn't for the fact that I discovered some of these other palettes that are like now floating down here, I would 100% keep this. I love the yellow. I kind of wish the yellow was like a single or a duo or something with Beat. Like, these two shades here are chef's kiss, but I'm not keeping an entire palette for the sake of two shades. That is ridiculous. So I loved this. Firm favourite. It was the first palette that kind of got me into colour because it felt quite safe because there were like neutrals in there as well. But she's gonna go. I'm gonna say goodbye. I actually think I'm doing a really good job. I'm quite impressed with myself. I've got Soph's palette from Revolution. This is another palette where the yellow is stunning. It's just quite old and I don't reach for it anymore, so this can go. I've then got an Illamasqua palette, which I got in an advent calendar, I want to say. I always keep it because it's really unique and I don't have shades like this in any other palette. But I also never reach for shades like this, which is why I don't buy palettes in this colourway. So I don't think I've ever used this. I'm pretty sure it's untouched. I think I might have used this shade once. So she can go. I like to keep this because I think it's like, apart from Beauty Bay, it's one of the only like affordable makeup brands that I have. It's a nice palette. It's the Analingus palette from Barry. It's a nice palette. The shades in here are pleasant enough. I just don't love it, so therefore I don't reach for this. So this can also go. Like, honestly, I'm getting rid of so much. I'm quite proud of myself. The love affair with this palette goes so deep. If you followed my Instagram when I got this, or even followed this YouTube channel, I think I was posting a little bit when I first got this palette. I love it so much. It's the Charlie Betty Beauty The Earth palette. I just freaking love it. It's very chunky, like it's a very intense palette, but the shades in here are stunning. This color here is so unique, and then this green, I think the gold, where is it? It's really backwards. The gold is what everyone like raves about, but to me, it's this little purple colour, that middle green. The yellow is also beautiful. I just love this palette so much, so she can definitely stay. And then I've got my other Vive palette. This is the Muse palette, which is significantly more kind of like, how do I describe this? Purpley. I also love this. I use this all the time. Before I get into Huda Beauty and Natasha Denona, I've also got a Violet Voss palette. This, I feel like everyone used to rave about this all the time, and then I've not seen anyone speak about it ever since. I don't know if the palette's been discontinued, but this falls into a category of eyeshadow palette, which is stunning. I used it, it had its moment. A lot of the shades in here are very, very similar. They also have a huge crossover with other palettes I have kept, so I just don't reach for this that much. It's also quite old. I got this at a very similar time to like some of those Zoeva palettes and stuff, so it's either over 10 or coming up to 10 years old, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. I don't really reach for this anymore. Fine. I don't know what to do about all of these, so I'm gonna throw these all back in again. So I've got a Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. This has actually some of the most unique, beautiful shades in, and the formula site, I'm gonna keep this. This is like nothing else that I own. I've then got this. So this is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. Who remembers when like everyone loved this? The Natasha Denona Zendo palette. The Urban Decay Heat palette. Are you sensing a little trend? I am too. The Tarte Tartlet palette. The Natasha Denona Mini Bronze palette. And then the Natasha Denona Mini Love palette. So I think these are my maybes. I have to say I think this one's calling out to me the most as a keep. So this is Zendo by Natasha Denona. There's something about this formula. Do I have all of those shades pretty much in here? Yes and no. More no. I might just keep all of these. So this is now what's left. I've got a Huda Beauty, a Tarte, and a Urban Decay. I think I'm instinctively wanted to keep the Urban Decay over the Tarte, so the Tarte palette can go. And these are the last two palettes left to pick from. Cosmo is such a beautiful shade, and I do actually use this quite a lot, which is why it looks a bit messy. Okay, I just reached both these palettes, right? And I know they've kind of got a bit of a crossover, well, quite a lot of a crossover with the other palettes that I'm keeping, but I do reach for them. And fundamentally, I'm allowed to own stuff. So I'm going to keep both. And there you have it. The drawer is now completely cleared out. I'm going to give this a little wash and put everything away. But I've made some really good progress. Like if I tilt you guys, there you go. So this is the pile that I'm keeping. And this is the pile that I'm getting rid of. And I feel like they're relatively similar sizes. I might count them and see whether I'm actually getting rid of a decent percentage. But I think this is the most severe cull of eyeshadows that I've done in a very long time, and I'm very happy. So I'm going to clean out the drawer, put everything back into hopefully just one drawer, which is the goal, and I'll show you the finished result. I mean, are you ready? Not only do they all fit, they fit in the front bit, which if any of you have these Alex 9 drawers, or 5 drawer as this one is, you'll know that you can't really see the back of the drawer. So the fact that it all fits in the front is quite an achievement. I'm not 100% sure of the layout. I might change it in weeks and months to come. But I've kept 20 palettes and got rid of 29 palettes, which means I kept 40% of my collection, which is nuts. Like I still have so many choices, but now I feel like I have a nice range of choices that I don't feel overwhelmed when I open this drawer. I feel like it's now going to mean that I'm more likely to mix and match and try different things, while I was basically reaching for the same 3 or 4 palettes all the time. And a lot of them were these, but like I was like not getting enough love out of these two. These two I often got forgot because they were in the drawer down below. So I'm just very excited and I'm very happy and I'm proud that I've done it. And yeah, they're the ones that I've kept. And here's a little summary of the ones that I'm getting rid of. So my camera died halfway through my sentence. What I was trying to say is these are the 29 palettes that I'm getting rid of. I mean, quite a monumental day. 90% of them, well, they're a bit high. I would say about 50% of them, it's because the eyeshadow palette has gone off. Like some of these are really, really old, and then a few of them it's just I just don't use them. And so what I'm gonna do is the ones that have gone off are obviously going in the bin because grim, but the ones that are absolutely fine, which like these Illamasqua one, this teddy bear palette, the fantasy palette, etc., I'm gonna like gather together and I will take it to a few of my friends who normally take some of my leftovers, because these are all actually great, because these have all survived previous declutters in the past. They're actually all great palettes. There is nothing like fundamentally wrong with them apart from the gone off ones. There's just like palettes that I reach for more. So yeah, these are the palettes I've got rid of. And while the camera was recharging, I actually reorganized this drawer slightly. It might look the same, but it is different, I promise you. So here's a quick little tour. So we've got two Vive palettes. These are my favorites. I would say these are the two palettes I've reached for the most over the last sort of 6 months. I then got my Charlie Betty Beauty palette, which I love. These kind of four are palettes I reach for periodically, but they weren't getting anywhere near as much love as I know that I could give them. So I've got my Natasha Denona palette, my two Huda Beauty palette, my Urban Decay palette. So these actually now slot really nicely down the side here. And then here are like frequent users anyway, but just in a more kind of organised fashion. So I've got my Rare Beauty palette, which I was also gifted. Can we just talk about the fact that gifted, like what is my life? So I've got my Rare Beauty palette, which I love, my two Natasha Denona palettes. I'm of the camp where if I don't use these before I move and love them, I will get rid of them before I move, but they're going to stay down here for now. I've then got my Beauty Bay palettes, which I use all the time, including the pastel one. Then I've got my little, like, tucked down the side here, Marc Jacobs, and then my Urban Decay Naked palette, which comes into its own in the autumn, but I still reach for it periodically the rest of the year. And then my two bigger palettes at the back, but they're at least in the same drawer, because before they were down here, like tucked under other stuff. So I used to forget they existed, while now they're in here, I will remember they exist. So I've got my Mini Masquerade palette and then my Carnival palette, which is my like go-to if I want a colourful eyeshadow look. So yeah, I'm actually really happy. While I love that it fits in one drawer, I love that it kind of fits so well in one drawer. There's like a little bit of space to grow, because obviously you can square these off, and then there's a space here. But fundamentally, it fits very well, and I'm very excited to now have a slightly more considered, selected, smaller selection of eyeshadow palettes that I just know I love and are all in date, which is probably the more important thing. So here we go. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As I said, it'll be the first of many. Don't know what I'm going to do next, whether it's going to be more makeup, skincare, clothes. I do think I might leave the wardrobe declutter for that week that I have off in August, which is the very first week of August, so it's not far away. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's going to mean so much. It's going to give me the... what's the word I'm trying to think? What is the word I'm trying to think of? A word to keep going. I don't know what the word is I'm trying to think of, but it's not coming to me right now. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, leave a comment, let me know your favourite eyeshadow palette. Not that I like need to buy any more, but let me know your favourite. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!